Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of my wonderful and beautiful little subscribers out there. And how I love you all so, and I hope that you're all super duper well, super duper wonderful, and super duper delicious. And that life is treating you most deliciously wherever you are in the world. So what do you do? 3, 2, 1, my juice little lights. Thank you, little lights. You're delicious and bright. Yes, they are, aren't they? My delicious little babies. Now then. So there isn't any videos today, okay, my delicious little babies, because what it is, I just haven't managed to. I've only managed to listen to some, and usually, well, it's who I advertise on a regular basis, and of course, with anybody not in that way, not in that way. But first things first. So I received a little envelope this morning, my delicious little babies, and it is to the resident. Oh. So I'm a resident now. You see what I mean, my delicious little babies? Well, this is not the first time, you know what I mean? It's either that or the occupier. You see what I mean, my delicious little babies? We've heard a lot about occupiers, haven't we, my delicious little babies? Now then, so inside of this letter, my delicious little babies, okay, was this. Okay, can you all see it, my little lovelies? Okay, so what this is, as you can see, they're all square. Okay, my delicious little babies, and it reads, get on the property ladder in this is down the road from where I live, Perry Bar. Okay, my delicious little babies. Now, why am I mentioning this? And, you know, who it is, you know, them. Okay, my delicious little babies. Now then, you know, the old umbrella. Now then, so why am I mentioning this morning, my delicious little babies? Well, the reason why I'm mentioning it, okay, and by the way, it's 11:30. Like I said, I have to say the time. My other video was only uploaded from yesterday, and it was it took all day to upload. So it was uploaded, I think, about 7 hours ago now. Okay, so that's how long it took to upload. That's why I explain what the time is, my delicious little babies, okay? And the weather is lovely and sunny. It is delicious out there. Now, I must get my little birdie house, and I'm getting that done today. I was going to do it yesterday, but I'm doing it today, my delicious little babies. There is some blue sky, but there's zums. We're up from very early in the morning, my delicious little babies. Crisscrosses, everything lands, everything in the sky, my delicious little babies, okay? Quite frankly, it is enough to pee anybody off, my delicious little babies, okay? It should not be happening, but of course it's happening all over the world. So yeah, let's get back to this now then, yeah. So it's a square. So what they're trying to do, it's quite obvious, my delicious little babies are trying to lock us all in. Do you know what I mean, my delicious little babies? There we are. That's what they're trying to do, okay? It's quite obvious what they're doing. They're doing the same in Dubai, which I said months ago, you know, and they're doing it in other places, okay? My delicious little babies, there is an awful lot of construction, okay? My delicious little babies, yes, okay? So, but it's under the pretense for you to get onto the property ladder. So what's that telling myself? It's telling myself that they want everybody, there we are, out of houses, okay? They've been doing this, there we are, long time, okay? My delicious little babies, okay? Like, oh, if you're in a block of flats, oh, you'll feel super duper and delicious in a block of flats. Do you see what I mean, my delicious little babies? Because, of course, they don't want anybody growing anything. They don't want anybody being, that we are self-sufficient. Do you see what I mean, my delicious little babies? And I was having a conversation, actually, with somebody who I know. They do gardens, my delicious little babies. And they happen to grow their own. You know, everything they grow is, you know, like fruit, vegetables. They have the little chickens, so their eggs and things like this now then. And one thing that, you know, that they were saying to myself is that they cannot stand supermarkets, my delicious little babies, and they do not like, you know, buying anything in plastic, my delicious little babies, okay? But of course, you know, we know where this plastic goes, my delicious little babies. I happened to mention, actually, when I was in mid-conversation, to do with our lovely dustmen and dust ladies, okay, my delicious little babies. So this is not directed at them at all, and I must make that abundantly clear, okay? They're so super duper wonderful, you know, especially, you know, the dear men and women who come on our road, okay? They're really, really friendly and nice, not in that way, but they're just really nice, okay? And I was talking about, like the recycling. And so that's that to do with the flats, okay? So it's just to make ones aware who may not be aware, my delicious little baby. There's always, there we are, a catch. And what you also have to remember with flats, okay, is that there's usually a lease. Well, that's how I knew it. And I bought and sold a flat, decades ago, my delicious little babies, okay? But the lease, there we are, can be most expensive, okay, my delicious little babies, anyway. So that's the end of that. Let's go on to the bin. Sorry, I'm overrunning my tail. Old-fashioned Irish saying my delicious little babies. And so it's like the recycling. It's just, there we are, one big effing scam. Do you see what I mean, my delicious little babies? I've been done talking about this. There we are, months and months and months ago. And I actually happened, because there weren't the same bin men and bin ladies then. Okay, my delicious little babies were a different set. Sorry, I've just got to put you on pause. Just a moment, please, my little lovelies. I'm sorry about that, my delicious little babies. It's all right. It's just, me beautiful little neighbour's cat comes from up the road, down the road, okay? She sort of pops in and out, okay, my delicious little babies, okay? So she just, she pops in to have a bit of a nibble of food. I mean, she's got plenty of food at her own home, but you know what they're like, they like to come and have a bit, bits and pieces from other places. You know what little pussycats are like, my delicious little babies. Anyway, so let me get back to the matter in hand here. So what they do, and I explain this to the dear bin men and the dear bin women, and no one who the bin men at the time, my delicious little babies, okay? There wasn't any dear women there. And I said, I cannot see the common sense. And they said to myself, well, what do you mean? And I said, you've got one box for the cardboard. I said, then you've got, this is the recycling bin. I said, and then you put your plastic in there. I said, but when you have your big truck, you put the whole lot in the truck. And I said, so where's the common sense in that? So I said, I wasn't saying it against the dear bin men. No, I wasn't. I was just, there we are, simple things, pointing things out. Do you see what I mean, my delicious little babies? Well, I've just said that to who I was speaking to earlier. And, oh, sorry, excuse me. And I was just saying that to them, and they said, oh, really? So they never realised themselves, my delicious little babies. Do you see what I mean, okay? So like I said, they brought it in as a scam, just like then they said, oh, right, for your gardening, you've got to have another bin, okay? So each time you've got to pay for these bins. So say if a bin, will get damaged, at one time they used to just replace it. Well, these days they do not. You have to pay for one. So if one's paying their council tax now, then, well, why do they need to pay for these bins now? That's all I'm asking, my delicious little babies. That's all I'm asking. Anyway, so we change the subject. So what shall I go on to next, Jess? So, and of course, I've got to be honest, I mean, you've got bins that are just left outside, recycling, not the other. I mean, I put my bin out, for tomorrow. But of course, Birmingham City Council couldn't give a shout that it's making the road, there we are, look untidy, and who I feel sorry for is the families. You see what I mean, my delicious little babies, who've got young families, you know what I mean? So, of course, they're going to use more, aren't they? Do you see what I mean, okay? But, yeah, it's just a flipping arsehole. Do you know what I mean, my delicious little babies? Anyway, my bins, there we are clean. Do you see what I mean, my delicious little babies? Because I have just cleaned mine this week, my delicious little babies, okay? Anyway, but that's another thing as well. There are ones who go round cleaning wheelie bins. Do you know what I mean, my delicious little babies? They charge a little fee, and then they clean the wheelie bins. But I reckon that could be, there we are, ka-ching, 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 big business, you know what I mean? Especially as, things are piling up, and especially in other parts of our city, my delicious little babies. Do you see what I mean, okay? But of course, Birmingham City Council couldn't give a shout. They still want the ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. They still want the pound, shilling, pence, dollars and change, but they don't want to, you know, pay for extra recycling bin men and bin ladies, bless, you know, to have a job. What they're trying to do is reduce it, and there we are. And I've been told that was it a few months ago now? Yeah, I was told it from a very good source. Do you see what I mean? They're trying to reduce, but it's not the dear bin men or the dear bin women's fault. It's not their fault at all. Do you know what I mean? You have to again go back to the source, which is the Birmingham City Council. Do you know what I mean? And absolutely effing sharp, man. I know that they're there to do their job, working 9 to 5, but I do not believe for most of them they are seeing. Do you see what I mean? And they're not hearing, you know, or they're not doing their research. Do you know what I mean? They're just like little, I'm sorry to have to say it, but it's true. They're like flipping damn little robots now. Do you know what I mean? Okay? But they're not seeing how it cheeses, there we are, everybody else off. I mean, this road, when I first moved here, and that's what I was saying to her when I was speaking to him earlier, bless. I said, do you remember? Because they've done these roads now for years and years, okay, mad little babies. I said, do you remember when the road used to be, especially over the back, when it used to be lovely and tidy and everything? Said yes. Do you see what I mean, mad little babies? Because what happens is, say if you've got a wind, okay, because we had some strong winds, you know, I mean, thankfully not as strong as in other countries, you know. But then, of course, you know, so the bin lid, you know, flies open, and then, you know, all of the flipping rubbish just goes flipping everywhere. But not very often does anybody spare a thought. And I don't mean this nastily, I'm just done saying it in my camera. But very rarely does anybody think to themselves, okay, well, actually, if you have to think, it means no, that's always been my saying, mad little babies. They do not spare a thought, sorry, okay, to say to themselves, okay, let's just go and pick up what was in my recycling bin, mad little babies. They do not spare a thought to do that. Do you see what I mean? Okay, so of course, what's it going to do? Ding, ding, dong, dong. It's going to make the road, there we are, most untidy, martelish little babies, you know what I mean? For myself, I keep, you know, my area clean, and there we are, clean and tidy, martelish little babies, do you know what I mean? But, you know, but yeah, the road, you know, that was once lovely and tidy is not quite the same anymore, martelish little babies, do you know what I mean? It has got a bit better. Okay, I mean, it's lovely and quiet. I mean, you would never ever think that this road is. Do you understand what I mean? You know that it's in Birmingham, actually, my little babies. You just wouldn't, but you know. But I just get peed off, you know. And when I walk around and I, you know, and I see it, there we are. It just flipping damn well irritates me. You know what I mean, mad little babies, you know. Nobody should have to have the flipping bins piled up like that now then. Anyway, mad little babies, now finally what I want to talk about. And then I'm going to be over and out, okay? I was listening to our lovely, before I say that, so I was put back on pause, mad little babies, to do with old YouTube. And the reason why is, you know, again, it's protecting, there we are, it's protecting the community, apparently, mad little babies, you know, the YouTube community, okay? So I couldn't leave any comments for another day. So now I've been able this morning. So the first one I sent was to, and like I said, not in that way, our lovely, iconic, you know, iconic space Gareth space arc on YouTube, mad little babies. They're now up to 7.13 thousand subscribers, mad little babies. Isn't that super duper wonderful and delicious anyway? And yeah, I heard this the other day. Now, this is something that I haven't, because I haven't been following some things, okay, mad little babies, and this is to do with, very sadly, terminations, abortions, okay, mad little babies, and, well, what is it now with our putrid governments? They've now, is it passed? Is it a bill or something to say that right up until a baby's due to be born? So I'm not saying this to depress or to upset anybody or offend anybody, okay? whoever would pass my channel, which these days is very few, okay? But I'm not worried about that. Who's meant to see will see, who's meant to hear will hear. Do you see what I mean? So I'm not bothered about things like that now then. If that's how YouTube wants to play it, fine. Fine by myself. Do you see what I mean, Martinish little babies? They've been a long time doing this anyway. But the point is, so I must be, there we are, saying the truth, isn't it? Yes. Certain don't like the truth. You see what I mean? But right up until birth, that they can abort, terminate the baby, Martinish little babies. Okay, now I heard it the other day when dear Gareth, and not in that way, was talking about this, okay? It's a very sad situation. Now, I totally agreed with, which I have done for decades and decades, right? You will get, there could be many different circumstances why a dear woman would have a termination abortion. Okay, there's many different reasons why marriage little babies. Okay, and it's not all just figure of speech. It's just figure of speech. It's not all cut and dry. Do you know what I mean? Marriage little babies. Okay, there could be many different circumstances that we are surrounding a situation that a dear woman is in or a dear lady is in. Do you see what I mean? Marriage little babies, and sometimes, you know, as we very well know, you know, you do have young teenagers as well. I mean, there was one, what was she? I'm going back decades ago now. She was she, I think she was 13 or 14 when she had a baby, Mardelishlik babies, and that was in Old England. That was, there we are, decades ago now, Mardelishlik babies. But she had a baby. So she had a dear mammy, you know, Mammy Bear, who helped her to bring the baby up. Okay, Mardelishlik baby. So this is, you know, not new to myself because I knew about this decades ago, okay? But of course, you could have another situation with a dear teenager, and it's not, let's just say, like I said, all, you know, cut and dry. There could be many different reasons, you know, why, you know, they would not want to continue with the pregnancy, Mardelishlik babies, okay? But to do this, and apparently I heard this morning with our dear Gareth and dear Richard, his dear friend, you know, because they talked together on their video, that in the, I don't know, the Parliament, wherever it was, okay, that's not dear Gareth's words, by the way, Martin Stick babies, you know, in their house, right, that they were cheering it on. Do you know what I mean? My delicious little babies. So, you know, and not only that, but what we also have to look at here is the longer that a dear woman, dear lady is pregnant now, is, okay, sometimes there can be an attachment, you know, to themselves and little baby. And at other times there is no attachment. Do you understand what I mean? And that's why you get, you know, like sometimes you get what you call these surrogate mummies. Do you know what I mean? Where what they do, they carry the baby for, I've talked about this months and months and months ago, they carry the baby for somebody else, and then that somebody else pays them some ka-ching, ching, ching, you know what I mean? And once little baby is ready to be born and then they're born, then little baby's handed over to, you know, their mummy and daddy, and there could be many reasons, maybe could not have little babies or something, do you know what I mean? Very sadly, do you know what I mean? Which is why they went down that route. Okay, Mardelishtik babies, so it's all different. But what I'm saying is, even for that dear woman, sorry, or dear lady, okay, I'm just looking at this from, there we are, a different angle here, okay, different point of view. Well, they would have to carry that, there we are, for the rest of their lives. So it may not at the time, not in all cases, it may not at the time be such a deal. Do you know what I mean? Mardelishtik babies, but later on in their life, they could feel, there we are, differently, which of course, that would cause, well, I would have thought it's common sense. There we are, mental health issues, because then they will be realising, there we are, what they have done. So whether there was a reason for this to go full term and then not have the little baby anymore, like I said, there could be many different reasons, okay? I'm not really fully sure what reasons Mardlichlik babies, and I'm just being honest. I'm just talking as a woman now, do you know what I mean? But what I'm saying is that it's not all, let's just say, figure of speech, black and white Mardlichlik babies, do you know what I mean? But for those to be cheering, and who's to say as well, Mardlichlik babies, okay? Because with terminations or abortions, well, there's a couple of ways you can do it, isn't there? You can either take a tablet or you can go down the route of going into a clinic and having that done, which usually that would cost, there we are, a pretty penny, okay, Mardlichlik babies. Where they use, so I'm not saying this, like I've said, I repeat again, to depress, upset or offend anybody, but they use a vacuum. It's like a vacuum, Mardlichlik babies, okay? So that would be when you're like, I don't know, is it 12, 14 weeks or something like this now? But to have a baby like that, well, they're not going to be able to do that, are they, Mardlichlik babies? So I'm not saying it in that way. I'm just saying. So it's making myself wonder what they would be using, especially for the fact they put it through for full term. Mardlichlik babies, there we are. I'm just looking at things from a different point of view, different angle, Mardlichlik babies. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay? Because as we very well know, very sadly, what goes on in the world, for those of us, there we are, who do follow it and who do know, okay? So I would say there we are, there's another reason, another number of reasons, there we are, Mardlichlik babies for this. But this is our so-called governments, putrid governments, Mardlichlik babies, that are supposed to be there for everybody's benefit, to help us. Apparently, Mardlichlik babies, okay? Well, it's just damn rank, and that is just damn well disgusting. That's my view, Mardlichlik babies. I'm not going to change. That's my view. Okay? But like I said, and where's the little baby, there we are, going to go? There we are. Just a question, Mardlichlik babies, okay? So, as we very well know, well, I do, and so do many others, that, anyway, I'm not going to go into no more about that, Mardlichlik babies, because it's clearly, there we are, for anybody who's gone through something, there we are, very upsetting, okay? And of course to be lied to. Do you see what I mean, Mardlichlik babies, okay? So, yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. And finally, yeah, when you go to the toilet sometimes, Mardlichlik babies, you could be sat on the loo, right, Mardlichlik babies, and I can flush the toilet while I'm on the loo, Mardlichlik babies, do you know what I mean? So anyway, that's the end of my video, Mardlichlik babies. It's just, I was listening to that and I thought I do that sometimes, Mardlichlik babies. Do you know what I mean? I've done it flipping on and off. There we are for years, Mardlichlik babies. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, of course, in other countries, I mean, especially hot countries, I mean, they use bidets, don't they? So you have this water squirting up your when you sat on the toilet, Mardlichlik babies, But for most of us in this country, no, we don't really have bidets. There's nobody who I know who has a bidet. I did know somebody decades ago who had a bidet, but I don't know anybody, well, certainly not on my road, who has a bidet, Mardlichlik babies, a guy. So you usually have these, flushable toilet wipes and everything, just to keep your, there we are, yourself clean. Do you know what I mean, Mardlichlik babies? Anyway, I just thought I'd just mention that. But yeah, it does get your thoughts, you know what I mean? You're not all going, do you know what I mean? Okay, some of the habits that some mankind have, including myself. Okay, Mardlichlik babies anyway. It's only when you stop and spare a thought for it, do you know what I mean? So I know that was too much information, so I'm not going to say anything else. But yeah, it's very upsetting hearing about that. Okay, Madslichtig babies, and I believe that there we are. One should certainly, there we are, speak up about this. Yes, I do. Okay, because you see, if more did that, just like this bill that they wanted to pass, there we are, which I know a long time, and I've seen it all anyway on BitChute. I'll forever miss me BitChute. On BitChute, Madslichtig babies, where these suicide pods. Do you know what I mean, Madslichtig babies? Okay. So at the end of the day, there we are. But, they're trying to pass this bill anyway. I mean, they had that Liverpool, there we are, pathway, very sadly. They had that for a decade. You know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned with anything like that, it's just another way of, very sadly, there we are, murderers. Do you know what I mean, Madslichtig babies? You see what I'm saying? But of course, you got some in a way. I've actually, there we are, seen it with my own eyes and heard it with my own ears. There's some where they actually feel that this is, and that's in our old England, Madslichtig babies, where they actually feel that it is a good idea. That if you want to take your life, then you take your life, and everything like this now. Then, do you know what I mean? With a helping hand. You know what I mean, Madslichtig babies. They've been a long time doing it. There we are in Canada, Madslichtig babies. It's called MAID. That's what it's called. Okay, so it's not just like if somebody very sadly could be like paralysed from the neck down, and they feel that they don't want to be here anymore, very sadly, because they feel that they are a burden very sadly on their families, and and they're not getting a quality of life. Of course, there we are. Decades ago, they've been doing this, so some would fly over to Switzerland, Madslichtig babies, and they usually have to pay ching 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 a pretty penny. Do you see what I mean, Madslichtig babies, okay? But over in Canada, yeah, I mean, it's like if you're depressed, and that includes younger little bairns, very sadly. So if they're feeling depressed, then they get the offer, would you like us to help you to take your life? That's how bad it is, Madslichtig babies. That's how severe it is. Madslichtig babies, kind of trying to do it here. Okay, this is very serious indeed. Just very sadly as the abortions terminations, that's extremely sad. So imagine what's going to happen now. Do you see what I mean, Madslichtig babies? Imagine. Do you see? We're going to have a flipping, it's going to triple, quadruple. There we are, in depression, in everything. And it's not just the dear woman or dear lady who is going through this. This would be her family members, in some cases her friends. This is extremely serious. And of course, what I've just mentioned now, they're trying to say that, oh yeah, it's perfectly all right, to do like what they were doing in Canada, Madslichtig babies, you know what I mean? But like I said, but some are not seeing. Do you see what I mean? Maybe they're not hearing properly. Maybe there we are, stick brook in your ear, old-fashioned Jamaican saying. They're not hearing properly what this really, really means, Madslichtig babies. Do you see what I mean? Okay? So I'm not shouting at you, Madslichtig babies. Okay? It's just that, you know what, I'm just really passionate about, there we are, certain things, Madslichtig babies, and you can see, there we are, it's not a very nice road that it's going down, Madslichtig babies. Do you see what I mean? Okay? But I'm not saying this against any woman, dear woman or dear lady. There could be many different reasons, but to do this, I mean, I remember decades ago, I do know actually somebody, okay, but I am going back, there we are, decades ago, when I was a teenager, Madslichtig babies, and I do know a woman, and yeah, she wanted her little baby, but her boyfriend did not. So the only place that she could go, and I'll never forget that, I can see a birth trace now as I'm talking to you. So the only place she could go was to London to go and get this done, because she went past the 4-month. Okay, Madslichtig babies, and that was when there we are, was a teenager. Okay, Marzlish little baby. So I've just said it. There we are. Do you see what I mean? Marzlish little babies, okay? And I'm 51 now. And I was about, how old was I then? I've got to have been about 16, 17 then. Yeah, but she was very, very, there we are, upset and sad at what she did. But she did it because of that man. Do you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, if it was myself, I would have said, well, you know, man or not. Do you know what I mean? It's not him that has to go through that and the emotions. It's the woman who goes through it, not the man. And unless you get the, you know what I mean, a situation where you've got the man and the woman where there could be other reasons surrounding this or circumstances. Do you understand what I mean? But it can affect a man as well. There we are. It can affect a man. So I'm not saying that men are heartless. No, I am not. But in this particular case, and I remember even as young as what I was, and I spared a thought and I thought, you know what? I thought I wouldn't do that for a man. No matter how much you love somebody. And really, would you want to love a man, there we are, who's asked you to do that? So it's like he wanted you, but didn't want that he's helped to create Marzlish babies. That's the point that I'm making here. Marzlish babies, but I'm not saying that every man is the same. No, I am not. But I'm just saying in that particular case. But yeah, she was depressed, for, there we are, for months and months and months and months. Yeah, because of that. So can you see what I'm saying, where this will, you know what I mean? Okay, and that's all that I'm saying. But yeah, it seems that very decades ago, a long time back, there were, like I said, they never did it in old Brummies. You could only go to London at that time. Marzlish babies can't. But her little baby was fully, formed. My delicious little babies, do you see what I mean? So this video, once again, is not to upset, offend or depress anybody, but very sadly, there we are. This is a reality of life. You know what I mean? But we have to ask, there we are, many questions here. Okay? Sometimes you can look at what we would call obvious. They do not want, because like we all know, they do want depopulation, but no. I'm looking at, there we are, different angles. Do you see what I mean, Marzlish baby? So my video will probably, there we are, take another 24 hours to upload Marzlish babies. You know what I mean? Okay. Well, if that's the way it is, then that's the way it is, you know what I mean? But I just, there we are, want to express, and being a woman myself, do you know what I mean? Marzlish babies, and I feel I've just done that. Okay. Oh, and if we could please go on to our lovely UK column as well, Marzlish babies. You can go onto their website, okay, UK column, okay, and you can become a member and everything, okay, and you can purchase something out of the shop, just like our lovely Iconic, where you can get coffee cups, and everything like that now then, okay? And you would be helping their channels, okay? But our lovely UK column is also on, it's called UK Space Column Space News, okay, Marzlish babies. And I wanted to comment, didn't I? Marzlish babies, and then that's when it flipping said I'm not allowed to flipping comment for a day. I only wanted to put thank you, dear Brian, dear Ben, and UK column, and God bless you all. That's all I wanted to put. They told me I couldn't flipping comment for another day. Marzlish baby, they're doing it regular to me. Marzlish babies, okay. So when you're saying to yourself, oh, she hasn't put out a video, whoever does manage to listen to my videos these days, so thank you for any views, for any likes, and for the occasional comments, you know what I mean, Marzlish babies. But it's not for the fact, that I'm not putting out a video. It's just taking so many hours to upload. And I am convinced this has got nothing to do with the internet and everything. This is, there we are, personal. There we are, at myself. Do you see what I mean? There we are. Do you see what I mean? Marzlish babies, okay? But they clearly don't like the word maybe God. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? There's clearly something that the YouTube what is it, algorithm, whatever it is, it doesn't seem to like Marzlish babies, you know what I mean? But this is regular now. This is like either sometimes every day and sometimes every other day that they're doing it. Okay, Marzlichlik babies. Okay, so yeah, that's what they're doing. Marzlichlik babies. I'm just not gonna get annoyed about it. Do you know what I mean? Marzlichlik babies, because from where I'm sat, there's very little I can do about it, and I'm still yet to join the other. As soon as I do Marzlichlik babies, I'll tell you where I'm going to. Okay, it's just I'm going to be a bit busy today, to be quite honest with you. Okay, so what it is, I just need to get other things done. But yeah, and I'll let you know which one there we are that I'm going on. Okay, Marzlichlik babies. I already know there we are which one I'm going on. Okay, I've just got to sort it out. That's all. Okay, Marzlichlik babies. Oh, and I was really pleased as well, and not in that way, okay. You know that dear young man, bless him, who I advertised. He's nearly up to 500 subscribers now, Marzlichlik babies. There we are. Isn't it wonderful and delicious? And our lovely UK column, what are they up to now? 12.3 thousand subscribers, Marzlichlik babies. So it's not for the point that I do not want to comment on certain channels, you know, and the same as our lovely Not in That Way, our lovely dear Richard Verbs and his lovely dear little wife to be Julia. It's not that I'm not putting thank you. It's just because they're not allowing me to. That's the reason, Marzlichlik babies, you know what I mean? So I cannot even put thank you, because they're all banging out brilliant and wonderful videos, Marzlichlik babies. So, you know what I mean? This is beyond my control. Do you see what I mean, Marzlichlik babies? But it would be interesting. I mean, they're clearly doing it to others, but how many? So it'd be interesting to know how many they are doing this to. Do you know what I mean? But it's certainly to myself, it seems that when I get under their skin, that's the words I got, when I get under their skin, this is what I get now then, you know what I mean? It's like you've been a naughty, naughty, naughty girl. So what we're going to do is we're going to bar you for one day from commenting. So we're going to pee you off and upset you. Well, at the beginning, yes, I may have been peed off about it, but I'm just not now. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that for everybody who I do comment to, I'm pretty sure there we are that you do know that I would comment. Do you know what I mean? Just say thank you. Do you know what I mean? Okay, but like I said, it is what it is at this moment in time, Marzlichlik babies, and of course you got the censoring, you got everything. Do you understand what I mean? It's like they don't want you to have a free speech, Marzlichlik babies. And even when I talk to, let's just say the odd ones, you know what I mean? They are too, they are fully aware of this free speech, which is not free speech, Marzlichlik babies. Do you know what I mean? Okay, everybody should be entitled, there we are, to have their view and opinions. And not feel that the channels should be what I call figure of speech squeezed. You know what I mean, Marzlichlik babies, for wanting, there we are, to express an opinion or view. Do you see what I mean, Marzlichlik babies? Okay, we're not in China, but that's where they're trying to take us. Marzlichlik babies. Do you see what I mean? Okay, that's nothing personal against the actual Chinese. You know what I mean? It's just the way that their governments are over there now. Then, do you know what I mean? Marzlichlik babies. Okay, and of course, they're in parts of America and everything. You only have to listen to Stumbling Here. Lovely Mornings with Mel K on Rumble, Marzlichlik babies. And their dear partner, Rob, not in that way with anybody. But yeah, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, you can see a map as well of how much China is in America, Marzlichlik babies. Do you see what I mean? Okay? Not to mention, like I said before, all the private police stations over here in Old England, Marzlichlik babies. But of course, the box in the corner of the room would never tell you, the putrid box in the corner of the room would never tell you that, Marzlichlik babies. Do you see what I mean? Okay? And of course, there are many, there we are, who do not know about this, Marzlichlik babies, but I've known, there we are, a long time about this. Do you see what I mean, Marzlichlik babies? Yes. Anyway, so that's the end of my video. So wherever you are in the world, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, please have a super duper delicious time. You only get one life, my little honey bunnies, okay? Sending peace, love, harmony, and brass blessings to each and every one of you. And may your beautiful little selves and your beautiful little families all be fully protected. And please take care of yourselves now, and please try to take care of others, because we are in a bonkers, crackers and crazy world. And one last thing, yes, I am still being spied on. There we are, my little babies. Yes, I am. Okay, just when I thought they'd gone away, no, they haven't. Okay, my little babies. So if you have to live like this, the way that there we are, I have been living like this, it's enough to drive you effing insane. Okay, my little babies. So you just take care. So very much love. Have the most beautiful time wherever you are in the world. And I hope that life and the weather is delicious for you all. Love ya. Thank you. Goodbye.